Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Chapter 16, Section 2 of the Digestive System. So here is a nice little overview for you all. This link is the same link that I provided in 16-1. Gives you a nice animation of the digestive system. So if you didn't look at it then but feel like doing it now, great. If you looked at it and liked it, just know that this is the same thing. We're going to pick back up right where we left off. So we ended talking about the small intestine, specifically the ileum of the small intestine and how it attaches to the large intestine with the ileocecal sphincter. So the large intestine as a whole looks like so. So we've got an upward moving tract, a nice little bridge that crosses laterally of the body. We've got a downward moving tract, and then we kind of have that S-shaped end, which we're going to take a look at. The large intestine as a whole is also what you and I refer to as the colon. It's about 5 feet long, and what makes it the large intestine is not the length, because the length obviously is much shorter than that of the small intestine. But what makes it the large intestine is the diameter. As we can see, it's 2.5 inches thick. No digestion physically takes place within the large intestine. By the time what remains of food gets here, all digestion's taken place. However, water and minerals as well as vitamins are going to be absorbed here. In fact, about 80% of water is absorbed. So when one becomes sick, for instance, diarrhea specifically, what that tells us is the large intestine isn't absorbing enough water. However, in normal cases or normal scenarios, when 80% of water is absorbed, that's where we see the formation of feces, which is a fancy way of saying our undigested remnants of food. And then the whole purpose is for the large intestine to move it along so we can expel it or remove it from the body. The parts of the large intestine, as I mentioned, we've got moving around different tracts. The first is the cecum, which is a nice pouch-like first portion, which will attach again to the ileum of the small intestine, which is the reason why we see the ileocecal sphincter or valve. The appendix is also found and attached here. So unfortunately for you guys, the way that my brain views this is kind of a little rat tail that hangs off of the end of the large intestine. It's a vestigial organ which nowadays has no known function. It does nothing to benefit us. On the flip side, if it ruptures, it can do major things to harm us because hopefully we understand if that ruptures, then everything in that large intestine can seep out and then make the body septic or toxic against itself. However, it's believed that back in the day, in our early history, it may have played a role in our overall immune system. So, helping make sure that the bacteria that's found here because of fecal matter didn't harm the individual. The colon, however, as a whole, off of the cecum, is made up of the ascending, transverse, descending, and then the sigmoid colon. So the ascending portion, obviously moving upward, it's that light green color. Our transverse colon's that nice bridge that moves or cuts the body transversely in that dark green. We have the descending colon in yellow, which moves downward, and then the sigmoid colon, which I like to refer to as being S-shaped, S for sigmoid. After we get through the colon, we then see the rectum. It's about 6 inches in length, depending on your size and stature. And then at the bottom portion or inferior to the rectum, we would see the anal canal, which is about the last inch. If we take a look at the rectum and the anal canal, here's a nice little diagram. So we've got the rectum. Again, it's about the last 7 to 8 inches, depending on size and stature of the individual. And its whole purpose is to collect feces for defecation, which is the scientific term for removing waste from the body. Feces, the scientific term for waste. It then comes to a nice kind of close at the anal canal, which is the final inch. The anal canal, or what we would refer to as the anus, is the opening to the exterior of the body. because it allows things to enter and or leave because it's a doorway. It's guarded by two sphincters, or two of those circular muscles. We have an internal anal sphincter and an external anal sphincter. As you can see here, your internal anal sphincter is made up of smooth muscle. That means that it's involuntary, as a reminder. Since it's involuntary, you cannot control this. The external anal sphincter, however, is made up of skeletal muscle. So this you can in fact control, meaning when you get that feeling like you really gotta go, your external anal sphincter is what's going to prevent you from, well, crapping your pants, excuse my language. Also, I have to throw it out there that I am slightly enjoying the fact that I don't have to look at all of you try to hold back your laughs or making weird faces because of the amount of times I end up saying anal. So, the formation of feces. So, here again, we see the large intestine. Feces, as we know, should be a semi-solid mass of material that can obviously be different if one is experiencing constipation, too much water has been removed, or diarrhea, not enough water has been removed. However, that semi-solid normal mass is the result from the absorption of that 80% of water. So if more is taken, constipated; if less is taken, diarrhea. Feces consists of a mixture of things. First, water, inorganic salts, epithelial cells from all different parts of the digestive tract. So, starting at your mouth, then your esophagus, your stomach, the small, the large, the rectum, and then finally the anus. Um, all of these pieces, or portions, I should say, could have given off cells along transit of food. We also see bacteria, specifically Escherichia coli, or you and I know it, E. coli. E. coli produces gas as well as odor as a byproduct of the decomposition of that food material. This is very harmful should we ingest it. It makes us really, really sick. So I don't know if any of you remember, but a couple years ago, it was not to eat any spinach, and before that, it was don't eat lettuce because it was contaminated with E. coli, which is a byproduct of fecal matter. So, if ever you hear of an outbreak, you need to stay away from those food items, or you need to wash them really, really well because this can make you very, very sick. Now, as we turn from the overall alimentary tube to our accessory organs, here's a nice diagram. We've got the very large liver up on top, that green gallbladder that's kind of tucked underneath, and then the pancreas, which almost looks kind of like a leaf that's hidden behind the bottom portion of the stomach. It's important for us to know and understand that with accessory organs, no food passes through these. Instead, all of these assist in chemical digestion by producing something to drop off into that main pathway or alimentary tube. They include, as mentioned, the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. If we look at the liver in and of itself, it's the very large organ. This is going to manufacture anticoagulants. So it's going to make sure that food materials as we move through doesn't build up and form a nice internal mass that would be relatively hard for the body to pass. It also has the ability to phagocytize certain bacteria as well as old white and red blood cells. So as a reminder, phagocytize is when cells go ahead and engulf something and turn it into a waste product. That way it doesn't harm the body. It also has the ability to break down certain poisons or things that could be poisonous in different parts of the digestive tract. It will transform glucose and fat into, glycogen and fat into glucose, so usable sugar for the body. And it's going to store glycogen, copper, iron, and the vitamins A, D, E, and K. It also, in terms of the digestive system particularly, is responsible for producing bile salts. Those bile salts allow for the breakdown of fat. The bile salts are dropped off to the small intestine, specifically to the duodenum, because of the inferior structure, the gallbladder. Your gallbladder, as we can see in this diagram, located on the posterior and inferior side of the liver, is about a 3 to 4 inch sac, and it's going to store and concentrate those bile salts and make and produce bile that's been produced by the liver. And again, these are responsible for allowing for the emulsification or the breakdown of fats. And when we emulsify something, we're simply breaking it down into smaller pieces. So, first, that would happen mechanically, and then we see it chemically based on digestion. Last but not least, we have the pancreas. The pancreas, inferior to that of the gallbladder, it also is inferior and located underneath the stomach, which is not pictured in this diagram. And it's going to produce a mixture of digestive enzymes. First, we see different pancreatic juices, which all contain amylase, lipase, trypsin, and bicarbonate juice. Amylase, as a reminder, is what will allow us to digest and break down sugars. Lipase, what allows us to break down and digest fats. And then trypsin and bicarbonate juice both act as buffers. So, reminder, a buffer is going to make sure that if we are too acidic, we bring that pH level down. If we're too basic, we slightly increase that pH level to maintain body homeostasis. We also see the production of insulin and glucagon, which helps regulate and control blood sugar levels. So, any type of diabetic, gestational, type 1, type 2, all suffer from the production and or the usage of insulin and glucagon. So, the breaking down of sugar and the storing of sugar. Um, that is all in terms of the accessory organs, and this is going to kind of tie up our understanding of the digestive system as a whole. So, hopefully, if you have any questions, you reach out. Otherwise, I will see you all in class.